Every contestant that makes it to Hell's Kitchen has one goal: to grab the coveted title of winner, steal that crazy-ass prize money, and of course work as a head chef in one of Ramsay's incredible restaurants. But some of them just don't have their heads in the game and end up driving Chef Ramsay up the wall. Just like this contestant, who thought he could take on the great GR, but ended up falling flat on his face. You see, Jeff Lepoff was feeling super sure of himself, and maybe a little too bold when he decided to challenge Chef Ramsay's cooking instructions. The famous chef clearly asked him to cook the lamb for 4 minutes. But Jeff, feeling super full of himself, went ahead and asked him for 1 more minute. For a second there, it seemed like Jeff wasn't even doing his own job.
Michael was helping me, chef.
Right. So, what are you doing then if he's doing that for you?
And poor Michael was the one left doing Jeff's work for him, and let's just say that Chef Ramsay wasn't happy about it.
Now he's blaming Michael.
I'm not blaming anybody, chef.
The longer you're here, the worse you're getting.
But wait till you see what happened next. Because what he said next pissed Chef Ramsay the hell off. He wanted Jeff to know that it was strictly a 4-minute deal, and trust me, he was so mad that he looked like a firecracker ready to pop.
Well, your timing, you jumped up and has just stuffed the dining room.
Ooh, this man legit breathes fire. Like, that was insane, right? I can't be the only one. Anyway, Jeff clearly wasn't happy about the way Chef Ramsay told him off.
No, I'm gone.
Dude, don't forget that you're nothing but a contestant on the show, and Chef Ramsay's the big boss around here. Know your damn place, dude. And just when you thought you'd seen it all, out of nowhere, things got really awkward. People were throwing accusations left, right, and center. Textbook definition of a verbal brawl. And let's be real here, Jeff's overly strong belief in himself wasn't winning him any points with the rest of his team. And then, out of sheer annoyance, Jeff mumbled something, well, let's just say not very kind under his breath.
You're an asshole.
Oh no, he didn't. It looks like we have a situation on our hands. It turns out that sous chef Mary Ann has ears as sharp as a hawk's, and she didn't hesitate to put them through their paces. One viewer couldn't help but applaud the sous chef's quick reaction to Jeff's not so appropriate behavior. As they said, she almost literally pounced on him. If I didn't make it at all obvious, Chef Mary Ann heard that sneaky comment from a mile away, loud and clear. And let me tell you, Jeff was in for some serious trouble. In the blink of an eye, Jeff found himself in front of Chef Ramsay, repeating what he said earlier, only this time, he had to say it to his face.
You're an asshole.
Let me tell you, I'd have shit my pants in fear if I was in his shoes. I've gotta hand it to Jeff, dude's got balls for not cracking under pressure. I mean, to think, let alone mutter those words about Chef Ramsay to yourself is one thing, but to say it to his face? God damn, it's a night and day difference for sure. And yeah, so what do you think he did afterwards? Dude just finally gave up and said, I'm done.
I've had enough of it.
While Jeff took off, his actions greatly affected the team. Look at what this contestant had to say about the whole incident.
Jeff really lost my respect because he cracked because somebody was yelling at him.
It's a bit disappointing that we'll never find out what Jeff would have spilled during that after-battle interview. Like, talk about a cliffhanger for the ages. I'd pay good money to be able to pick Jeff's brain about what he thought about all of this. Whew, that was one heated situation. But if you really think I've laid all of my cards down already, you've got another thing coming. That was just the beginning. Let's dive right into this next story, one that's about a major mishap that set off Chef Ramsay real quick. We're back in the blue kitchen and Anthony was on the line, calling out that he needed 30 seconds for the first order. Now, you'd think that Jeremy, who was also working there, would respond, right?
Jeremy, hey, he's not even answering me.
Nope, he stayed silent, and we know how much Chef Ramsay values communication, so that put the chef in a sour mood from the get-go. Now, here's where things get really messy. Jeremy finally admitted that he didn't hear the order. And do you truly think Chef Ramsay was gonna be chill about that? No. The only thing it did was send Chef Ramsay's already palpable frustration into overdrive. And poor Anthony, he was left feeling pretty disappointed in Jeremy. He even went to the extent of comparing this mess up to when Jeremy was on the chopping block after opening night.
Jeremy is dead weight, going back to the person we put up for elimination.
But wait, there might be more to it. You see, there's a legit reason why he wasn't responding. Check this out, Jeremy wasn't feeling great, and my dude here had dealt with a stroke before. I mean, you tell me. That connection's not a hard one to make. And I'm far from the first person to think this. Apparently, people who have had strokes continue to have relatively frequent episodes of blackouts and unresponsiveness even long after their treatment. It's like, when the pressure gets real, the brain just kind of error 404s just to cool things down as a precautionary measure before anything crazy happens. Yeah, it's arguable that some serious issues were catching up to him during his stint on the show. But Anthony wasn't giving up on our boy Jeremy that quickly. He repeated over and over that he needed 30 seconds for his omelet. And guess what Jeremy said?
How much longer on you guys?
Seriously, the guy just wasn't catching on, and Chef Ramsay, who probably didn't have the full story about his health complications, whether or not they were a factor here, was getting pissed off by it. Which, like, is understandable at least. His teammates were practically dragging him back to reality, and that's pretty much everything they could have done at that point. But once again, Anthony was back. He shouted out 30 seconds again, but Jeremy still remained unfazed. It was now time to change the tactics. Somebody needed a wake-up call real bad. Which is why, this time, Barrett decided to step in and try his luck. He firmly asked Jeremy to make more croissants, all while imitating Jeremy's clueless expression. However, Jeremy was just standing there, holding his croissant, not doing anything at all. Meanwhile, Chef Ramsay had a front row seat to the whole thing.
Jeremy standing in the middle there like that with his breakfast. Come round then, big boy.
He was so pissed that he actually ended up mimicking Jeremy's inaction. By this time, Anthony had had enough. He ordered Jeremy to get moving, and finally, something came out of it. Jeremy managed to take his croissant to the pass, but guess what? Something was missing. Yeah, dude had skipped on the most important part of the dish, the smoked salmon. I mean, how do you even make a mistake that bad? But what he did next was even crazier. After realizing his mistake, Jeremy walked right back to his station and asked Dan if he had a plate he could snatch. At that point, Dan was pretty much wrapping things up, so obviously he didn't have any left with him. But guess what Jeremy did? He was like, I don't care, I'm grabbing that plate, and strolled off with a plate that was kept nearby. There was no stopping him, you see. Our man was on a mission to get ejected from the kitchen. Cause this is where everything went downhill real fast. Turns out, the plate that Jeremy picked was the one that Chef Ramsay cooked ages ago. Yeah, it was the freaking sample plate. So you could imagine the famous chef's reaction. Well, it would be an understatement to say that he was mad, because this is how he reacted.
Some disgusting pig brought me the sample scrambled eggs.
Chef Ramsay screamed his lungs out and called Jeremy a disgusting pig. But of course, that was before really giving him a piece of his mind.
Jeremy! Damn! You fucking killed someone with that!
Meanwhile, John couldn't believe what was happening. He was just standing there, shaking his head, like, what on earth? He was legit wondering how Jeremy couldn't see that the plate was practically from the Stone Age from how cold and old it was. John straight up told Jeremy to nab a rubber spatula from the back. That was probably just to keep him off the station for a bit. So, while Jeremy was off in La La Land, the rest of the crew stepped up big time and got that first order done. Thanks to everyone except Jeremy, the team was finally back in line. But you have to see this next epic argument between Ramsay and Giovanni in Season 5. Seriously, if you ask me, I think it's like the grand finale of cooking showdowns. So, the kitchen was buzzing during a high-stakes dinner service, tensions were riding high, and Giovanni was stationed at the meat counter. But just then, things escalated faster than, well, an escalator? I don't know, man, my pun machine's running really dry over here, so please help me out, guys. Anyway, you see, Giovanni had this weird fascination with the convection oven, like he was playing peekaboo with it. Object permanence? Have you ever heard of it? Chef Ramsay was like, hey, cut it out or you'll regret it later. And of course, the famous chef was totally on the money. Like, let me spell it out for you. Big box, full of hot. Open box, hot go out. Big box, take much time to make more hot. Second law of thermodynamics, boys and girls. Anyway, Chef Ramsay wasn't prepared for how hard Giovanni was gonna fail high school chemistry here. He served up Ben Wolanka's chicken special, but I mean, I spelled it out for you. Take a wild guess at how it looked.
Is that like a chewed up bit of chicken from the dog? Here, that's your special.
Ugh, not too appetizing now, is it? So Giovanni started pleading for a minute to fix the mess, but let's be real, it was clear that he was lost in the sauce. And get this, his attempt to save the day resulted in a sad, chewed up drumstick hanging to the bone by a thread. Like, seriously, what's the point? Now, Chef Ramsay didn't hold back. He swooped in, told Ben that Giovanni's antics in the kitchen were ruining his special dish, and oh boy, Chef Ramsay dropped a nickname that I can't really say here.
Your special has now become not very special, thanks to Dick Face there.
But Giovanni wouldn't back down, not even after that.
Yeah, but I'm not Dick Face, Chef.
Yeah, say that again?
I said I'm not Dick Face.
Yeah.
And you know what? That further added to Chef Ramsay's fire. You gotta see this mess to believe it.
You're sending shit, and you're trying to get away with it.
Now, credit where credit's due, here's where Giovanni earned some respect. He stood his ground saying that name-calling wouldn't break him. I mean, props to the guy, because honestly, I'd probably crumble like a cookie. But even with his determination, let's face it, Giovanni had a whole lot of kitchen shame on his plate that day. So if you're up for a ringside seat to a cooking catastrophe and a showdown between Chef Ramsay and Giovanni that's spicier than hot sauce, well, here's some more for you.
Sending me that, you should be ashamed.
The part where the famous chef practically got right up in his face, almost nose to nose, and started shouting at the top of his lungs, now that was insane. Honestly, scary even. I hope this guy's eardrums are okay. Some might think that he's a bully for doing that, and others might think otherwise. But it's a pretty tough situation to unpack, you know? So maybe let's just leave that can of worms packed up tight for now. Anyway, buckle up for this next one because Hell's Kitchen just got a whole lot crazier, and who's to blame this time? The none, the only Jeffrey Dewberry. Let me tell you, this dude may as well have been a ticking time bomb, a disaster waiting to happen. That particular vibe that clung to him like sticky dough was something that he just couldn't shake off. So, in the signature dish challenge, Dewberry decided to whip up some baked spaghetti. Sounds harmless, right? I love me a good baked ziti or penne. Well, you'd be wrong this time around.
It's completely overcooked.
Is it?
That's just like children's food.
Yep, you heard that right. Now, let me tell you, Chef Ramsay has always been a bit more dramatic. I mean, come on, could he really just say that right to the guy's face? But the train wreck didn't stop there. Chef Ramsay had some serious trouble trying to pronounce Dewberry's name. I mean, talk about starting things off on the wrong foot, huh?
Blueberry.
Dewberry.
Oh, Dewberry.
Yes.
It was pretty damn clear that Dewberry couldn't handle the heat, and boy did things get even hotter during the dinner service. He was stationed at the garnish station, but his lack of energy had Chef Ramsay giving him a creative nickname.
Like one big fucking overgrown muffin.
God, this man is absolutely creative, isn't he? The kind of names he comes up with never fail to surprise me. But guess what? When the pressure reached its boiling point, Dewberry tried to make a quick exit and leave the kitchen for good. Yup, we've got a quitter over here, you guys. However, Elsie's expression put the brakes on his grand escape plan. Chef Ramsay, being the no-nonsense guy that he is, wasn't having any of it and gave Dewberry a solid piece of his mind. Well, you don't get to make those decisions, Dew. It's best to leave it to Ramsay. Sadly, the writing was on the wall for Dewberry, and he ended up being the first nominee for elimination.
We have a great base knowledge. Where?
Just in general things.
Really?
Chef Ramsay had seen enough and decided it was time for Dewberry to pack his knives and whatever else he dragged into the kitchen and go. But you know what? Between his almost walkout and his lack of resilience, it was pretty much a done deal.
Give me your jacket and get out of Hell's Kitchen.
But that wasn't the end of our boy Dewberry. He made a surprising comeback for the season's last dinner service. Ralph picked him for the last team as expected, and Dewberry was totally okay with it. He wanted to prove himself to Ralph, but there was just one thing he wanted to avoid like the plague, the meat station. Could you blame the guy after his opening night fiasco?
Dewberry's on the verge of fainting, right at the absolute pinnacle stage of service.
In the end, Dewberry turned the tables and showed everyone that he could rise above his first shot in HK. Who would have thought, right? But wait, the drama continues, and this time, it's Carrie. Right from the start, it was clear that Carrie wasn't quite hitting those culinary high notes. Things didn't really take a turn for the better during the dinner service either. Carrie found herself stationed at the fish counter alongside Jennifer Normant, where mistakes would be a constant companion for her that night. It didn't help that she got into verbal spats with Harris and even Chef Ramsay himself. Do you remember when this happened?
What in the fuck is she doing?
I didn't let her cook it. She came over and grabbed it, Chef.
And as the days went on, it seemed like Carrie was caught in a loop of mistakes, clashes, and blunders. By day 6, during the 20-year reunion planning challenge, something noteworthy happened. Well, she got into an argument with Elise.
It's not funny.
Who's laughing? Stop saying that like no one's taking it seriously.
And then during the dinner service, she hit a new level of screw-ups. Chef Ramsay's frustration reached this peak, and his reaction, well, let's say, was pretty spicy.
Look at me. Look at me!
Yes, chef.
Are you adding the old rice into the fresh rice?
Well, I think Carrie's skills were pretty lackluster. I mean, just take a look for yourselves and you can be the judge.
Walking with my salad.
I'm not walking yet. Carrie, did you just walk your apps up?
Yes, I did.
But hey, Elise is pretty annoying too. She's someone who's got this really big ego, and I'm not the only one who thinks that. This viewer pretty much summed up everything perfectly well. So obviously Elise was right about Carrie's performance this time around, but most times she was the only one responsible for all of the red team's troubles. Like, hands down. But did she accept that? Of course not. She was perfect, you see? Meanwhile, let's jump right back into the service and see what happened next. As Chef Ramsay's patience wore thin, he let loose some choice words about Carrie's poor performance. But instead of taking it as a chance to grow, Carrie opted to argue rather than improve.
I'm watching everything you're doing.
No, I did add some to the oven, yeah.
And what do you know, the inevitable happened. Carrie's Hell's Kitchen journey came to an end. But before she left, she had to clash some more with Harris, even causing a ruckus that roused the blue team from their slumber. Talk about a rude awakening. In the last dinner service, Carrie manned the garnish station, which didn't go well either. Chef Ramsay's anger reached new heights when she refused to join the team to assess the mess she'd created.
I have another one in the oven, chef. Don't kick me out, please. I'm not ready to cook, chef.
Carrie's time on Hell's Kitchen was marked by struggles, spats, and culinary mishaps. Her performance left much to be desired in cooking, leadership, teamwork, and behavior. Pretty much the works. But here comes a contestant who nearly drove Chef Ramsay insane. And no, I'm not kidding. Right from the get-go, it was clear that Raj was on a different wavelength than the other contestants.
Raj cooks 3 bilba sols before they were even remotely close to needing them.
During the signature dish challenge, where chefs were expected to showcase their culinary prowess, Raj's creation was a seafood and vegetable pancake. Which, I mean, hey, okonomiyaki is a thing and incredibly delicious too. Now, the thing about his pancake was that it looked like a sad attempt at abstract art rather than anything edible. Oil was practically leaking out of it, prompting Gordon Ramsay to compare it to something that had gone for a piss. And well, he got 0 points. Assigned as a waiter during the dinner service, his explanations of the specials were so convoluted that even the patrons didn't get it.
We have an amuse-bouche this evening of
Well, what could you expect from someone who might open the window on a submarine for some fresh air? Jokes aside, speaking of submarines, back in the kitchen, he was as useful as a screen door on one of them.
You go to the customers and tell them you fucked it up.
Chef Ramsay gave him an ultimatum that probably left Raj contemplating his life choices. Either step up and help in the kitchen or kindly fuck off. Ouch. My guy was just trying his best to stay in the kitchen, but as far as Chef Ramsay was concerned, this was the last straw.
Oh, I need another jacket though. I can't go out there with this jacket.
Hey, come here, you. Get out there!
His culinary skills were, to put it mildly, subpar. Eventually, his journey reached its inevitable conclusion. Eliminated for being the weakest link and way out of his league, Raj was shown the door. You might be thinking, hey, everyone has their off days, right? True, but every day was an off day for Raj. But if you thought Raj's antics were a roller coaster, wait till you see this next one. We have Siobhan, a brave soul who thought her scallops were the real deal. But guess what? Not even her teammates were buying it. I mean, you can practically see their skepticism written all over their faces. But Siobhan? She was determined as ever. Or maybe it was just a sprinkle of delusion. Who knows? It's almost comical how she was hanging on to the idea that her scallops were anywhere close to being a masterpiece.
I thought they looked golden brown, chef.
Stop, will you?
Girl, give it a rest already. I'm sitting here watching and I can't help but shout at the screen saying, come on, let it go. And when Chef Ramsay laid his eyes on those scallops, oh boy did he not hold back. Not even 1 second later, he called them out. To make matters worse, she decided to keep talking.
Some on here that were fine, chef.
So, where's the fine ones then?
No. Shut up and take some notes. Like, come on, that's just gonna aggravate him even more. And by the way, did you hear what he called her?
You donkey!
Yup, our man Chef Ramsay pulled out the donkey title. You gotta love to see it. But wait, there's more. Chef Ramsay decided that he wasn't finished with the punishment. What he did next is straight up cruel if you ask me.
Get out, off the bar and eat it.
Can you imagine? Having to face your culinary disaster while trying to put on a poker face in the dining room? That's some next level humiliation right there. And guess what? That was pretty much the final nail in Siobhan's culinary coffin. Quite expectedly, she didn't survive the episode. Well, that's to no one's shock, I'm sure. Not even Siobhan, I think. There's this look on her face, this moment of realization. It was like she knew the writing was on the wall. Well, hey, at least she was self-aware enough to see it. And there you have it, folks. The absolute best of the best when it comes to Chef Ramsay's fiery moments on Hell's Kitchen. Which of these moments got your heart racing? Did I miss any? Let me know in the comment section down below. And hey, don't forget to join me on my channel's Discord server for free. There, we can keep the discussion going about more times when Chef Ramsay blew up. And guess what? I even have an exclusive server for those of you who are interested. Well, I'm excited to see you there, but before you leave, make sure to smack that like button, subscribe, and turn on my post notifications. Also, don't forget to check out my latest video right here since it's even crazier.